Friends, today's NRI Samai program from Los Angeles brought to you commercial free by listeners like you. Your generous donations make possible for us to stay commercial free, and today's show is pre-recorded. If you have a question for the guest, please send an email to nrisamai@gmail.com. We will follow up with the guest and find the answer for you. Thank you for your support.
A very warm welcome to all our listeners on NRI Samay. As part of our special 5-part series on voice effort to help out with the disaster relief coordination, voice which stands for Volunteers Online for Impact in Crisis and Emergencies. Today on our show, we have Wahlang, who is a faculty at St. Edmund's College, Shillong, Meghalaya. Who is actually on the ground working to help out with the disaster relief, and also is a very active volunteer with Voice. So, Alan, thank you very much for being on our show today.
Thank you so much.
So, Alan, I understand you are short on time. Appreciate very much to be talking to us today. Now what exactly is the ground situation like, especially with there is no media coverage on what exactly the situation is in Meghalaya? Can you please help us understand what the situation is like?
On the third week of September, there were flash floods here in Garo Hill area of Meghalaya. So with that, the immediate effect was that all the critical highways that passes through Garo Hill, that is the NH51, from Paikan to Tura, the National Highway 37, they were all blocked due to landslips and landslides. And then the Shillong-Guwahati highway, which is kind of a lifeline for the people here, that got disrupted for at least a week. People couldn't move. Many places got affected. In terms of over 2.5 lakh people were affected. There were about 108 relief camps down, and 5 districts were severely affected, out of which there was one block, which is in North Garo Hill district, that is called Kharkuta. They were the worst hit in terms of the number of persons who died. There were about 27 in my list as far as I got from the block development officer. About 27 people died. The estimated households that were affected was over 50,000, and the damage to property and damage to households and loss of property went up to about 500 crores of rupees.
I see. And these are all the official figures?
Yeah, these are all official figures that we've been able to collect from the district administration and from the government.
I see.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying something else?
So apart from that, it's not only about damage to the roads or the highways. There's also a lot of damage in terms of infrastructure, health infrastructure, or for medicine and for border area development departments, because Garo Hill also acts as the border for India and Bangladesh. So they have those border huts, which act, as a source of livelihood for most of the villagers, and they have also lost all of that because some of these huts have been completely submerged by the floods. And now that the water has receded, there's nothing that can be done because it's taking a lot of time for them to start restoring and rebuilding.
I see. Now, you said about 50,000 people got affected, right? By that, do you mean they got
50,000 households.
50,000 households.
50,000 households.
I see.
Yeah. 50,000 households. Yeah.
I see.
No, I mean, not all have been, because the government does not really have the exact figure, because there are villages that have been completely isolated because there's only a bridge, or maybe a small little road which has been completely wiped out. Then they are in isolation. So the government officials cannot really do anything about it. They have to still wait till the water receded, no?
I see. So now has the water completely receded? I hope so.
Yeah, the water has receded completely. But then, like I said, because there's a lot of damage to livestock, also to the agricultural, the paddy fields. So in terms of livelihood as an issue, it's a very, very big issue right now, because people do not know, because people are still living in with their neighbors and things like that.
I see.
So the government is still, as we speak, still giving out relief material in terms of the immediate help in terms of rice and dal and things like that.
I see. Now, with the water receding, what kind of risks, if any, is to the health of the people? Like, is there any fear of any diseases or anything like that?
Yeah,
waterborne diseases?
The government, there was no report as such for any, epidemic. That nothing was reported, and I visited a few villages, within 2 districts, and nothing was reported, except for the minor diseases, swollen foot or your cuts and your wounds and things like that. But nothing as big as what one would expect during such kind of crisis. I see. Well, that's good. So in terms health-wise, I don't think it has affected so much.
I see.
Except for the minor ones.
I see. Now, I've been asking other volunteers from Voice as well the same question, like how did you get introduced to Voice, and how did your involvement with Voice start?
I remember that I was still at home, and I got a call from a friend of mine who was my classmate, and said, "Are you involved in anything with regards to the flood? Are you doing anything there?" And then I told him, I said, that, yes, as a college, we are trying to gather, clothes, brand new and also used clothes, but not tattered or torn. We're trying to engage with organizations that work in Garo Hill, to distribute all of that. Because we've been doing that even for, small kind of prices in terms of, especially have a hailstorm hitting us or cyclone. We've been doing that. So, but I did mention to him, I said that, because the Northeast is normally politically also excluded from what we understand as the mainland Indian politics. So people really do not have any idea, in that sense of what is happening in Meghalaya. But it becomes a little difficult because we do not have any reports as such unless we go to the ground and find out. So that is when he said, there is a group called Voice that is working vehemently the cause of these relief victims, and if you would like to speak to them, then maybe you could be of some help to them, or they could be of some help to you.
I see.
Right away, I said I would love to be part of such a group. And then at that point of time, I think later at night, I got a call from a lady called Bhavana. So she introduced herself as a member of Voice, and that's when we got started.
I see.
And that's when we started networking and collaborating and trying to facilitate this entire process.
I see. And you said that the floods, the flash floods, were in September, right?
Yeah, in September.
So what kind of activities Voice and yourself have engaged so far?
What we've done is, the first thing we've tried to get organizations that are here in Garo Hills to first assess the situation as to what is the ground reality, to collect information, to assess that kind of information collected, the data collected, and see whether how Voice could come in and then help, because it's already been said that we are volunteers online, so we do not really have any particular organization as such. And this is the first time that such a calamity struck in Meghalaya. So it was a little difficult at first. So what we did was, I called some of my friends, my colleagues, and partners, our NGO partners that work with us in our college, to see whether they could come up with some kind of a plan for this. So at that point of time, I got to connect with the current DC of West Garo Hills, Mr. Bakshi, and I asked Mr. Bakshi who are those organizations that are currently working for this, with regards to the flood. So he gave us about 2-3 organizations, and then we had another organization in Shillong that works heavily on healthcare issues, by the name of VHAM, Voluntary Health Association of Meghalaya. And then we got a very senior journalist from a reputed daily, Ms. Patricia Mukim, to work with us in terms of getting the government info and getting info from her field staff in Garo Hills, so that so that we know and understand that the data that we get is accurate and not morphed. And so we built a team like that here, and then we tried to see whether there are villages or there are areas or there are blocks which the government maybe helps but not enough, or because it was so chaotic and the floods was the calamity was so big that maybe the government might have overlooked those areas. So we tried to look at that, and then we got some kind of details and some kind of info from the district administration, from the NGOs, and that's where we started. That's where we came in, and we said, okay, let us now start creating the kind of where 3 or 4 organizations come together, and we facilitate a process where we buy relief materials for them. We generate funds, and we send the kind of money which is required to buy funds, to buy raw materials for them, and then to ensure that the right people get the right amount of relief material, and not what the government has just portrayed.
Yeah. Now, how much has this a problem with the media not covering or highlighting the real issues or the flood situation? I was asking about the impact to all the relief work in terms of the media not giving enough coverage to the flood situation in Meghalaya, because I don't think we have heard enough about this floods in Meghalaya. So how much has this really impacted the relief work on the ground?
The thing is, in terms of our local dailies, they've covered the entire event as such. But in terms of national media, I don't think they've done enough coverage. Also because of the fact that, like I said, Northeast is a little isolated, and we have this kind of a preconceived notion that Northeast is plagued with militancy and with guns, and it's a place where not much attention is given. So the kind of if you are like where I am right now, and you see what is happening on the ground, it is in a sad state of affairs. I've seen some of the pictures which I will be sharing with the voice team. There have been areas where you couldn't even imagine that happened. There were people who said, hills moved. Boulders, big boulders had ripped off 2-3 households just like that. But that kind of coverage was not done by the national media.
I see.
I do not know, and I don't understand why. But again, in terms of even the very fact that whenever there is any news about any part of the Northeast, it's not a state per se. They would never say Meghalaya or Assam or Arunachal or things like that. It's always a kind of a conglomeration of states. They would always say Northeast.
Right.
So maybe I just feel, I don't know, that's my personal opinion, that maybe it's because we have always been isolated. So that is why maybe we never got that kind of coverage, which would have helped actually in terms of people at least understanding what is happening.
Right.
And maybe that could lead them to helping us in so many ways.
Right. Okay, so in terms of the situation right now, where exactly are some of the areas where you would need help so that the listeners on an RSMA or even otherwise, if they want to help out, I know they can go through voice, but if you have to make an appeal, would that be?
Yeah, see, as of now, I've got the kind of reports from the government, and I've visited those areas the government has given me, and I understand from what I see and what I've said that the Kharkuta, the block which has been worst hit, still needs a lot of attention. Now, attention in terms of not of clothes, see, because there have been other organizations that have also come in. There have been individuals coming in, helping the people here. So clothes is not an issue as of now. They need, the government tells me that they're looking at a long-term plan of action for them. So the problem, there's another problem, because the government has sent in a memo to the central government asking for about 1,530 crores, 1,550 crores, okay, for rebuilding and restoration. Now, from unofficially, this is an unofficial statement that I got, that the central government is willing to give them 300 crores and not as what was proposed.
I see.
That becomes so that will be a major problem, because I've seen there are areas where the bridges collapsed completely. So there is no way that you could go to the other side except for makeshift rafts, or makeshift boats, which they use banana trunks, or they use bamboo, to cross from one side to the other. There have been households which have been, there are these small markets that have been completely submerged, and now even after the water has receded, there is still no activity there. The schools have been completely damaged. Some of them, I've visited and I have photographs, but there is a big chunk of material, of silt and sand right inside the school premises. And earlier they tell me that this was a playground. Now it looks like a marshy land now. And so, as of now, when we speak, we need a little more help in Kharkut block, and we need help in a place called Pajangpura and the Dengri block. These are the three blocks that need a little more help than what they have received.
I see. And what kind of help can people away from Meghalaya do?
As of now, this is I think the district administration, the NGOs here, we all stand in unison when we speak that we require help for school children, and for women. Very, very important. Now I'll tell you why. Most of these schools here are government-owned schools. They're not private-owned schools. That's what one would see in an urban area or a peri-urban area. Most of these areas, they're rural areas that have been hit. And so the schools there, you have the lower primary, the upper primary, the upgraded upper primary schools. They're all owned, administered by the government. Now that becomes a problem because not much has been given to them. They give them just one notebook or two notebooks and 2 ballpoint pens as relief materials for these kids. So what Voice has done is that we've tried to locate at least about 10 to 12 schools based on the information that we get from the administrations, from the NGOs, and from the others. And we've tried to distribute, a stationery set to those kids affected by the flood. And when we talk about the set, we mean that along with 2 pens, pencils, 2 razors, some we give them sharpeners, To the higher secondary students, we give them instrument boxes, geometry boxes, and we also gave them rulers. So a kind of a complete package, if not complete, at least that would help them to start preparing for their forthcoming examinations. Because see, our kind of schooling is a little schooling in the sense of examinations is a little different from the other parts of India. We do not have summer breaks. We have long winter breaks.
I see.
And our exams are not. Our final exams are normally in the month of November, December.
Okay.
So with the floods coming in coming in September, it became almost impossible for them to do anything. Forget about preparation of exams. Yes, that has affected them badly. Also, that these schools now, in order to rebuild these schools, and these are government schools, it will take a long, long time. So for that adds to the problem, because start your next academic session in the month of March. So what we need right now is to, again, generate a lot of funds and supply, give them like enough supply of stationery items and also prescribed textbooks for the next academic year for the local primary school students. Now for the higher secondary school students, they will have their annual board exams on in the month of March, early late Feb or early March. Now, I visited some of these schools, and they still haven't got any, because their textbooks and all of that have all been washed away. What makes matters worse is the publishers have run out of books, because normally it gets sold the month of everything gets sold off by April or May, because these are prescribed textbooks, so they don't really publish too many, just enough. So all of that's been sold off. So now again we have to think of a way how to get the publishers to publish these textbooks, these prescribed textbooks, and then get them to reach to these students which they would require to prepare.
I see.
Another very, very important thing is the electricity here. Because I'm able to talk to my team, because I was traveling, and network connectivity is a huge problem here. But here we are still in the first phase of our electricity. So even if you get a 100-watt bulb, it will still act as a 20-watt bulb. You can't see anything, clearly. And it's very sad. And people who are, children who are preparing for exams or children who want to study are not being able to do so once the sun sets. So we are looking at a possibility of providing solar lamps or some kind of an alternative for these kids who want to prepare, who would prepare for their forthcoming exams. So these two things, I think, are very, very important for us to look at right now. So it's a kind of an appeal from my side and as a representative of the team, of the Voice team, that if people would generously donate for these two things: one, stationery items; number two, solar lights. Because that is very, very important right now.
I see. All right. There you go, listeners. Alan clearly specified what exactly is the situation on the ground and what kind of help he needs there. You can go on to incrisisrelief.org and donate to the Meghalaya flood relief efforts. And Alan, thank you very much for being on the show. I know you have a lot of work on your hands, and we wish more and more people.
We're on our way actually to distribute some more school bags.
I see.
Yeah.
All right. I just hope more people listen to your appeal and join in your relief efforts. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, I hope so as well.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Suresh.
Thank you. Bye.
Friends, if you liked today's show, please go to youtube.com/NRI Samay and click on the subscribe button. You will get notified every time we publish a new show. And you can also like us on our social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, and Google+.